Beyond the edge of human space, the EOS colony orbited a pale blue world, its gleaming modules linked by pressurized tubes and lit by a constant hum of life support systems. In one of the long corridors, Lana Chen walked toward her new quarters, her steps echoing off metal walls. She was a junior engineer, quick with tools and eager for challenge, yet even she felt a spark of nervousness at the thought of living with an alien. The colony had hosted many species, but close quarters still felt like uncharted territory. Lana reached her door and swiped her access card. The lights inside flickered, as if greeting her. She set down her bag, which held a few clothes, a toolkit, and a small holo projector loaded with Earth music. Official colony logs said her roommate would arrive today, but no exact time had been given. Instead, she had only a cryptic note from the station manager. Customary preparations made. Expect delays. Lana frowned at the polite vagueness. She tried not to imagine worst-case scenarios, reminding herself that Velmorians came from harsh deserts and prized punctuality in their own way. Curiosity won out. Lana floated down to the common market bay, where vendors sold everything from hydroponic lettuce to gravity boots. She gathered fresh bread, spiced nuts, and sweet fruit cubes, human snacks she hoped a guest might enjoy. Then she found an electronics stand and picked up colored lights and small circuit boards. If her roommate had unusual needs, she would be ready. As she paid, the vendor warned of a special ritual practiced by Velmorians during homecomings. Lana nodded politely and slipped the warning into her pocket like a seed of intrigue. Back in her quarters, she spread her purchases on a low table made of recycled panels. The room was small but tidy. One bunk at each end, a shared desk tucked beneath the viewport, and a slender hydro tank in the corner. The absence of a dining table felt bare, so Lana examined her toolkit. With a few clips of wire, a pair of adapted clamps, and extra panels borrowed from a broken locker, she began fashioning a simple table frame. Sparks flew as she soldered joints, but within minutes she had a sturdy surface. It was rough around the edges, yet it held her snack spread perfectly. A soft pride warmed her chest. She had turned scraps into a welcome space. Moments later, a gentle hiss announced the opening of her door. Standing there was Krux, his tall, lean form draped in desert sand robes. His skin shimmered with a faint golden sheen, and his eyes held ancient calm. Unlike the angular helmet seen in logs, his head was exposed. Two long crest ridges swept back like crown spines. He carried a folded mat and a small carved bowl. When he spoke, his voice was low and musical, each word weighted with ceremony. Lana recognized no words but smiled and gestured to the table. "Welcome," she said simply. He inclined his head and set his gifts beside her snacks. Their first exchange was quiet but meaningful. Lana offered him a piece of bread. He broke off a shard of his carved pastry and placed it gently on her palm. The flavors mingled, sweet grain with spice-kissed dough, bridging worlds in a single taste. Then Krux unrolled his mat and settled beside the table. He placed the bowl at its center and reached inside. Lana watched, fascinated, as he pulled out glowing granules that flickered like tiny stars. He sprinkled them over the nuts. The luminescent dust drifted around the room, casting soft patterns on the walls. Lana's eyes widened. She had never seen anything so beautiful. Krux reached out, touched one of the lights, and closed his eyes. His breathing slowed and the glow brightened in rhythm with his chest. She realized these were not mere decorations but part of his ritual, an expression of joy and belonging. Without knowing exactly why, Lana felt honored to witness this private moment. She flicked on her holo projector, letting gentle earth chords fill the air. Krux's eyelids fluttered, as if sensing a kindred spirit in the music. When the lights dimmed and the snack bowls were empty, Krux looked at Lana and offered a final bowed crest of his head. She returned the gesture with a quick salute. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring, but a bond had formed in that simple room. As the colony's distant lights pulsed beyond the port window, Lana felt a fierce pride in her humanity, resourceful, welcoming, and open to new wonders. Little did she know, This feast was only the first step in a journey that would test every skill she had and reveal strengths she never dreamed of owning. Night fell over the Eos colony with the same soft glow it always did, but inside the habitat ring, Lana Chen could hardly sleep. Just a few hours earlier, she had closed her eyes to rest only to hear a distant low hum that rose and fell like ocean waves. She slipped out of her bunk and floated into the corridor, her sandals making no sound on the smooth metal floor. The hum pulsed ahead of her, guiding her to the artificial sunlight bank where Krux often stood. There, under the pale glow of synthetic dawn, he paced in slow, precise circles. His crest ridges cast shifting shadows on the walls, and his golden skin flickered with soft bioluminescence. Each step he took was measured, deliberate, and yet anxious, like an animal in need of freedom, but trapped in a cage of metal and air. Lana hovered just outside the light bank's safety barrier, uncertain whether to intervene. Krux's humming grew louder. Lana recognized it from the small ritual she had witnessed on his first night. A melody of belonging, she thought. But this felt different. It was urgent, almost desperate. She gently tapped on the glass. The hum stopped. Krux turned, his eyes wide and unreadable. He beckoned her with a slender finger, then pointed to his chest where a single bioluminescent patch had intensified its glow. Lana tapped her communicator and marked a quick note. Krux agitation, possible mating ritual onset. She drifted back to her quarters, her mind racing. She remembered the vendor's warning about a special ritual for homecomings on Velmore. Could this be the first sign of his mating season? If so, she had to learn more, and fast. Next morning, Lana made her way to the colony archives. Rows of hollow terminals flickered with data on every species known to human colonies. She searched Velmorian behavior and filtered results by anthropology logs. A dusty file popped up Velmorian seasonal cycles and rituals. As she read, Lana's eyes widened. During mating season, mature Velmorians exhibit rhythmic bioluminescence and vocal patterns. They collect small reflective objects to enhance their light display. In unfamiliar environments, these behaviors may intensify, causing power fluctuations and social distress. Lana leaned back, heart pounding. The logs warned that outside their desert home, Velmorians could inadvertently disrupt station systems, lights, power grids, even life support. She tapped her comm unit. Station command, potential Velmorian mating behaviors incoming. Request permission to assist and isolate if needed. A terse reply crackled back. Proceed with caution. Keep this confidential. Relieved to have command support, Lana returned to quarters to observe Karu. Over the next 2 days, his routines grew more peculiar. In the morning, he collected every shiny surface he could find, polished utensils, broken mirror shards, even smooth ceiling panels he detached with careful precision. He piled them in a corner of the common area. At night, he hummed under every artificial sun, as if searching for a perfect spot. Other colonists began to notice flickers in their lighting. In the hydroponics bay, a sudden power surge sent nutrient pumps into overdrive, flooding some plant trays. In the workshop, a short circuit caused soldering irons to spark unexpectedly. Each incident was traced back to stray bioluminescent flares from Krux's body, synchronized with his humming. Concern grew, but no one except Lana knew why. Determined to help, Lana spent her free hours crafting a reflective panel array, the bio-light diffuser she had sketched in her notebook. Using lightweight alloys and a matrix of small mirrors, she built a portable frame just large enough to surround Krux during his display. She tested its hinges and wiring, ensuring it could contain the light without trapping too much heat or pressure. That evening, Lana found Krux pacing again near the viewport. He paused when he saw her carrying the folded mirror frame. He tilted his head, curiosity in his golden eyes. Lana floated closer and spoke softly. Krux, I made something. It might help you. She unfolded the frame and guided him into its center. At first he hesitated, but his bioluminescent patch glowed brighter, a sign of trust, she hoped. Lana activated the array's sensors. Multiplying his light through the mirrors, the device captured and redirected each flicker back toward a central point. Carax's humming softened into a steady murmur. For a moment, the corridor glowed like a miniature starfield. Passers-by stopped to watch, absolutely silent, awe in their eyes. When the display ended, Karuk stepped out of the frame and bowed deeply. Lana felt a warm rush of relief. She had bridged their worlds again. Yet as she packed the array away, she noticed something troubling. One of the mirrors had cracked under the intensity. The edges were jagged, and a thin thread of coolant vapor escaped. If the next display was stronger, the frame might fail. That night, Lana barely slept. She reviewed the archives again, searching for clues on Velmorian mating peak times. The logs hinted the cycle could last up to a week before climax, with each night growing more intense. She realized she had only a few days to refine the diffuser, or risk catastrophic power failures that could cripple the station. In the quiet hours before dawn, Lana climbed into her bunk and stared at the ceiling. Her heart pounded with equal parts fear and excitement. She sighed, mind already racing through design ideas and backup plans. Across the room, Karux lay on his mat, chest rising and falling in measured rhythm. Even asleep, his bioluminescent patch pulsed faintly, as if dreaming of some distant desert under twin suns. Lana closed her eyes and whispered into the dark, "We'll get through this together." Outside, the Eos colony continued its silent orbit, unaware that two roommates, one human, one alien, were forging a friendship that would test every limit of human ingenuity and compassion. Lana woke early the next morning, her mind buzzing, with thoughts of Karux's rituals and the cracked mirror. She knew that to help him, she first needed to understand his culture better. After a quick breakfast of nutrient paste and rehydrated berries, she floated to the colony commons, where she reserved the holotheater for her cultural exchange evening. Bulletin boards lit up with her announcement, "Earth and Velmor share music, food, and light." A few curious colonists signed up, and by mid-afternoon Lana gathered supplies, sensors, lights, Earth music files, and Velmorian data logs she had carefully translated. As dusk settled, colonists filtered into the holotheater. The walls glowed with images of Velmor's endless dunes, twin suns setting in golden haze. Lana stood on the low stage and spoke into the mic. "Tonight we learn about each other," she began, her voice steady. She projected Earth landscapes, rainforests, snowfields, coral reefs, and played gentle string melodies. She described common human gatherings, shared meals, dancing under lanterns, stories told around fires. Faces in the crowd relaxed. They nodded in recognition of home and hearth. Then came Karux's turn. He stepped forward, unrolling his carved bowl from a cloth. His golden skin shimmered under the hollow lights. With careful gestures, he placed a small crystalline shard on the floor. It glowed softly, then pulsed brighter when he hummed in low tones. The shard's light danced across the theater walls, forming patterns like weaving silk. The audience watched in silent wonder. Lana felt proud. Karux trusted them with his sacred ritual. After the hum settled, Karux opened the hololog device and displayed key Velmorian symbols, concentric rings for community, spiral crests for life's journey, and branching fractals for the many paths one might walk. In simple translated captions, Lana explained each symbol's meaning. The colonists leaned forward, absorbing every detail. Even the station command, who had joined incognito to observe, looked impressed by the depth of Velmorian tradition. To bridge their worlds further, Lana had prepared a tasting table. She offered Earth staples, bread cubes with olive paste, spiced vegetable packets, and crisp fruit strips. Nearby, Karux laid out desert delicacies, dried luminescent seeds that glowed faintly, sweet rock petals that melted on the tongue, and a gentle pollen tea that shimmered like liquid moonlight. The colonists sampled both, marveling at the Whey flavors and lights combined. Some laughed in delight, others closed their eyes, savoring the senses. Lana exchanged a smile with Karuk. Their teamwork had turned curiosity into celebration. As the evening progressed, Lana unveiled her improved mirror array. She had replaced the cracked panel with an alloy frame lined with flexible reflectors and built-in heat sinks. She demonstrated by activating the sensors. Tiny spotlights on the frame picked up ambient light and redirected it inward, amplifying and smoothing the output. Karux's crest ridges glowed in response, his bioluminescence flowing in gentle waves. The array contained the light completely, preventing any stray flares. The audience watched the display with awe, clapping softly when the final pulse faded. Afterward, a student engineer approached Lana. "I'd like to help you refine this," she said, eyes bright. Others offered parts, expertise, and suggestions. A colony botanist even proposed using hydroponic tubes to cool the frame more efficiently. Lana realized that by sharing knowledge, she had turned a personal problem into a community project. Human ingenuity thrived when tools, ideas, and hands came together. That night, as the crowd dispersed, Lana and Karuk stayed behind. The Hollow Theater returned to its neutral gray, and the tasting table was cleared away. Sandra, the station's cultural liaison, arrived with a warm smile. "That was extraordinary," she said. "You've done more for human-alien relations in one evening than most of us could manage in months." Lana felt her cheeks warm. She looked at Karu, his golden skin soft in the dim light. He inclined his head, and in his eyes she saw gratitude deeper than words. Karux removed a small cylinder from his robes and handed it to Lana. Inside was a fragment of Velmore sandstone, etched with a spiral pattern. "Thank you," the hollow caption read, "for honoring our ways." Lana traced the carved spiral with her fingertip, feeling its grooves. She nodded, unsure how to reply in his language, but certain that their bond had grown stronger. Back in her quarters, Lana set the stone on her desk beside the small bowl of earth seeds Karux had given her earlier. She unpacked her toolkit and examined the mirror array one more time. With new parts donated by colleagues, she planned further upgrades. Adjustable reflectors that could shift angles automatically, and a coolant loop that tapped into the station's unused thermal drains. She sketched the ideas on a datapad, each line of code and wiring plan bringing her closer to a fail-safe design. Across the room, Karux unrolled his mat and lay down, his breathing slow and even. His bioluminescent patch pulsed in a calm rhythm. Lana smiled softly and switched off her lamp. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The mating season would peak, and the station's safety would depend on her improved array. Yet she felt ready. With human creativity and Velmorian trust combined, she believed they could face whatever light and life the future held. As she drifted to sleep, Lana imagined the display they would share next. A perfect symphony of engineered mirrors and living light. In her dreams, she heard Kyrox's gentle hum blending with earth music, weaving two worlds into one harmonious song. The morning light in the Eos colony habitat was steady and calm, but in Lana Chen's quarters, tension crackled like static electricity. Karuk slept on his mat, his crest ridges folding gently as his bioluminescent patch pulsed in a slow, even rhythm. Lana paced the room, clutching her datapad filled with design notes for the mirror array. Today, she knew, the mating season would move into its next phase, and the station's safety would depend on her success. By mid-morning, Karux awoke. His eyes opened slowly, revealing gold flecks that shimmered as he sat up. He met Lana's gaze with a soft nod. She drifted forward, carrying the improved array like a shield woven of light. "Are you ready?" she asked in a measured tone. Karux hummed quietly in answer, the sound like distant wind through sandstone canyons. He stepped into the frame, and Lana clicked a switch on the control panel. Immediately, the array came to life. Hundreds of tiny mirrors tilted into position, forming a perfect dome around Karux's shoulders and torso. Sensors monitored his bioluminescence and adjusted the reflectors in real time. At first, His glow was gentle, soft waves of pale gold that rippled across the mirrors. Lana watched the power indicators on her panel. Stable. Good, she thought. Then the glow intensified. Karux's crest ridges lifted, and his humming grew louder and more urgent. Light spilled outward in brighter waves. The mirror array held firm, redirecting every beam inward, but the sensors flagged rising heat levels. Lana's heart hammered. She flipped a lever to engage the coolant loop she'd added, sending chilled fluid through the frame's tubing. Steam hissed as warmth met cold. Outside the array, the corridor lights flickered and held steady. The array worked, but just barely. As Karux's display reached its peak, the mirrors reflected a breathtaking pattern of light, spirals and lines that danced like living art. For a moment, the corridor was filled with pure color, contained in the dome of mirrors. Passers-by paused at a safe distance, awed into silence by the spectacle. Lana felt a surge of pride. She had translated Velmorian ritual into human engineering. But then the unexpected happened. Karux's glow flared again, brighter than any earlier test, and one reflector panel buckled under the strain. A high-pitched snap echoed through the array. One section of mirrors drooped, leaving a gap where light leaked out. The station's power grid shuddered. Lights in nearby corridors dimmed. A warning siren chimed softly in the control room. In the array, Lana saw coolant pressure drop in the damaged loop. She needed to act fast. "Karux," she called, her voice firm yet calm. "Relax your display. Deep breaths." She tapped. Her comm unit. "Command, this is Chen. Array breach in progress. I need power reroute to AFT cooling." Static hissed, then a reply. "Authority granted. Rerouting now." Lana pressed another button, redirecting excess station power to her backup pump. The coolant surged, restoring flow to the cracked loop. Under Lana's guidance, the array stabilized. Karux's humming slowed, his bioluminescence fading to gentle pulses again. The mirrors realigned under their servo motors, sealing the gap. The corridor lights brightened once more. The warning siren ceased. Everyone exhaled as one. Lana floated out of the array and steadied herself in 0G. Karux stepped out, his golden skin dim but warm to the touch. He bowed his head in quiet thanks, placing one slender hand over his chest. Lana placed her own hand on his shoulder, offering reassurance. Though shaken, she felt relief bloom in her chest. They had weathered the peak display together. Station command arrived moments later. Commander Reyes drifted into the corridor, flanked by a small team of engineers and medtechs. She examined the array's damaged panel and then turned to Lana. "Your design nearly gave us a station-wide outage," she said, voice stern but not unkind. "But your quick thinking and system hack saved us. Report to my office in 1 hour for a full debrief." Lana nodded, keeping her expression calm. "Understood, Commander." As Reyes and her team floated away, Lana exhaled. She guided Karux back to his mat and helped him settle. Then she set to work inspecting the broken panel. The crack was fine but deep enough to affect strength. She marked it on her datapad and replaced it with a reserve reflector she kept for emergencies. That afternoon, Lana met the volunteer engineers from the cultural exchange. They formed a small workshop in the Habitat Bay. Together, they discussed improvements, stronger frame alloys, self-healing mirror coatings, and automated gap detection sensors. The colony botanist even offered to integrate thermal exchange tubes within living vines, plants that could absorb and dissipate heat naturally. Lana listened eagerly. Each idea brought more safety and elegance to the design. Meanwhile, Karux recovered. He no longer hummed with nervous energy but sat quietly, touching the spare panels with gentle curiosity. Lana passed him a data chip containing updated mirror codes. He projected the code symbols into hollow space, and Lana watched as he used his carving tools to etch small notches into a new panel, an ancient Velmorian method of calibration. Their collaboration blended human circuits with alien artistry as, the sun cycle turned toward evening. Lana returned to her quarters to rest. Karux joined her with a small tray of cool water and nutrient jelly. He offered it with a shy nod. Lana accepted gratefully, knowing her body needed nourishment after a day of high stress. They ate in companionable silence, punctuated by soft humming and the distant hum of station life. Before sleep, Lana reviewed her datapad once more. She had roughly 2 nights left before the mating season would wane. Each display might grow stronger, or a crisis could arise when she least expected it. But now she had a team, improved plans, and Karux's trust. The next display would be safe. She felt confidence settle around her like a warm cloak. Lying on her bunk, Lana watched Karux settle on his mat. His bioluminescent patch pulsed faintly. No urgency, only calm. She closed her eyes and whispered, "We're ready." Outside, the Eos colony glided through the void, carrying a daring experiment in friendship, culture, and human will. And, inside the silent ring, 2 roommates prepared to face the unexpected turns the stars still held. The small ritual chamber was silent except for the soft hiss of air vents and the muted glow of emergency lamps. Lana Chen and Karux stood inside, surrounded by the mirror array that had guided his mating display. The frame's reflectors held their positions, but the shattered mirror panel that Lana had replaced only hours before now trembled on its mount. Beyond the glass door, the corridor lights flickered as station systems struggled to compensate for the power draw. Lana glanced at her control wrist pad. Oxygen levels in the chamber were dropping rapidly. A thin red line crept down the readout. Outside, she could hear faint alarms from other parts of the station where power surges had rippled through the grids. She forced herself to stay calm. Panic would only waste precious seconds. "Karux," she said, voice steady. "We need to shut down the diffuser and seal the mirrors manually." He turned to her, his golden eyes wide with worry. The smooth glow of his bioluminescent patch had faded, replaced by soft pulses that matched his quick breath. Lana reached out and guided him away from the center of the array, careful not to touch any exposed wiring. As she floated to the control panel, she thought quickly. The main electrical feed had overloaded once the diffuser reached peak output. The backup feed she had prepared was supposed to kick in, but a blown fuse in the chamber's junction box had prevented it. She tapped a few commands on her pad and opened the maintenance hatch in the wall. Inside, wires crisscrossed like vines, and one bright orange connector glowed hot. Lana hovered beside the hatch, her heart thudding in her chest. She needed to reroute power around the blown fuse. She dug into her tool pouch and pulled out insulated pliers and a coil of spare cable borrowed from the botanist's workshop. The chamber's low gravity made her feel lightheaded, but she forced her hand steady. She cut the melted fuse free and spliced the spare cable into the live feed. Sparks flew, and the control wrist pad blinked green. Good, she thought. At least, the diffusion frame would have power again. But the oxygen issue still remained. The chamber's life support feed had diverted air to the workshop above when the main grid flickered. Lana checked her pad. Only 10 minutes of breathable air left. She had to cut his display now or risk asphyxiation. She swiveled to Karux. "I'm opening the mirrors, step back." He nodded, lifting his long crest ridges in silent assent. Lana reached for the manual release lever at the base of the array. The first panel swung outward with a grinding of metal. A shaft of harsh, white light stabbed into the chamber, and both flickered under its glare. She toggled the lever again and another panel fell back. The dome of mirrors collapsed in on itself, shutting off the light display. Karux exhaled sharply and drifted toward the wall. He pressed his palm against the cool surface, breathing deeply. His bioluminescent patch glowed softly, a sign of relief. Lana moved to the life support console and tapped commands to restore the feed. A soft whir rose as fresh air began pumping in. The red line on her wrist pad reversed course and crept upward. She let out a breath she had not realized she'd been holding. Minutes later, the chamber was full again of clean, steady air. The emergency lamps dimmed, replaced by normal lighting. Lana floated to Karux's side and offered him a flask of oxygen-enriched water gel. He accepted it with a nod, sipping gently. The cool sweetness soothed him, and his humming returned in low, grateful tones. Outside the chamber, Commander Reyes and a team of engineers burst in. They surrounded Lana and Karux, checking consoles and inspecting the collapsed array. Reyes's face was stern under the helmet's visor, but she kept her voice calm. "Status report," she said. Lana pointed to the spliced cable and the life support console. "I bypassed the blown fuse to maintain power. Then I shut down the array manually to restore the oxygen feed." She tapped her wrist pad with a flick of her finger. "All systems stable. Karux is safe." Reyes studied the readouts, then nodded. "Well done, but this highlights the risk. We need a fail-safe mechanism before the next display." She turned to her team. "Document her splice and oxygen override. We might integrate these changes into other ritual chambers if we host more Velmorians in the future." Lana felt a swell of pride and relief. She had saved Karux, and possibly the entire station, from disaster. Yet she knew the risk was far from over. The mating season was still active, and the next display could be stronger. She would need to refine the array further, add additional safety features, and prepare for any system failure. Once the engineers had collected their data, near-silent footsteps echoed as they withdrew. Commander Reyes gave Lana a brief nod and left her alone with Karux. He floated beside her, silent for a moment, then took her hand in his scaly fingers. His touch was cool, reassuring. Lana squeezed back. Karux's bioluminescent patch pulsed in a steady rhythm. He produced a small hollow chip from his robes and placed it in Lana's palm. The hollow activated, displaying symbols and diagrams of a hidden cooling technique used by Velmorians in extreme heat. The patterns were complex but clear, layers of porous crystal that let air flow and diffuse heat evenly. Lana studied them, her mind already racing through ways to adapt the design. She smiled at Karux. "Thank you," she said simply. "This will help." He bowed his head, and his crest ridges dipped in what Lana felt was deep respect. In that silent exchange, they acknowledged a bond forged not just in celebration, but in crisis. Human ingenuity and alien tradition had combined to save a life and to teach each other what it meant to care. Later that evening, Lana returned to her quarters, her datapad full of new ideas. She sketched the crystal panels into the array's frame and noted where redundant fuses should go. Karux watched her work, occasionally offering a hum and a gesture toward a symbol on the holochip. Together they made plans to rebuild stronger and safer. As Lana drifted to sleep, she felt the quiet pride of a problem solved and a friendship deepened. Outside, the Eos colony continued its silent orbit through space, carrying two heroes who had faced a crisis in a small chamber and emerged ready for whatever challenges the stars might bring next. The moon of Eos colony hung low outside the viewport, its pale face lighting Lana Chen's cramped workshop. All day she and Karux had worked side by side, fitting crystal cooling panels, installing redundant fuses, and testing the array's controls. By evening, the mirror dome glinted like a protective shell. Lana felt a mix of hope and anxiety. Tonight, Karux would complete his mating display, and the station would watch. In the corridor outside the chamber, a small crowd gathered. Engineers, medtechs, and curious colony, STS whispered among themselves. Station Command had approved a controlled ceremony in the secure ritual chamber down the hall. Signs warned, "Authorized personnel only, Velmorian light ritual in progress." Lana adjusted her tool belt, checked her wrist pad's oxygen and power meters, and drifted into the chamber with Keru close behind. The chamber was simple and calm. Soft lights glowed along the walls, and the air smelled faintly of recycled linen. In the center stood the mirror array, its polished surface spotless, the cooling tubes coiled neatly around each panel. A clear dome of transparent alloy enclosed the space, ensuring no stray light could escape. At the far end, a panel window showed the waiting crowd beyond a reinforced viewport. Lana gave Karux a reassuring nod. He responded with a low hum, his bioluminescent patch beginning to pulse in time with his breath. She tapped her wrist pad. All systems green. Cooling at full capacity. Ready when you are. Karuk stepped into the dome and raised his hands, above his head. His crests flared outward, catching the soft light. Then, with a slow intake of breath, he began his ritual hum. It started quiet, like distant wind through desert canyons, but grew steadily in strength and rhythm. Lana watched the array's sensors record every fluctuation, every rise in heat, every shift in light intensity. As Karux's lungs filled, his skin glowed a warm gold. Thin rivers of light crawled up his arms and across his chest. The first wave of luminescence washed over the interior of the dome, and the mirrors captured it, multiplying the glow into swirling patterns. From outside, the audience saw spirals of golden sparkle weaving above Karux's head. Some gasped in wonder, others held their breath. Lana monitored her readouts. Temperature, stable. Oxygen, steady. Power, within safe limits. She allowed herself a small smile. Her improvements were working. But then the hum deepened and Karux's glow intensified beyond any test he had shown. His crest ridges spread wide, and the dome filled with a fierce golden light, brighter than midday sun on Velmore's sands. Lana's smile faded. Heat levels spiked. The coolant loop strained. Red warning flashes flickered on her panel. She tapped settings to raise coolant flow to maximum and rerouted auxiliary power to backup pumps. The dome's coils hissed as they fought to shed the heat. Outside, the crowd's murmur turned to anxious whispers. "Keep steady," Lana whispered, more to herself than to Karux. She watched as the dome's integrated thermal sensors held the shell's temperature just below critical. The mirrors directed the light inward, protecting the chamber walls. Yet every second felt like a gamble. Inside, Karux's hum reached its zenith. His golden glow formed a brilliant halo around him. The mirrors reflected it again and again, creating a spectacle of living light. For a moment, the chamber felt like the heart of an alien sunrise. Then, as though sensing the climax, Karux paused his hum and exhaled in a long, soft breath. His glow flickered, shifting from gold to pale green, and then faded to a calm blue. Lana's panel alerts cleared. The dome's temperature returned to safe levels. She floated forward and tapped the manual release. The mirror panels folded inward, sealing off their view of Karux. Light dimmed until the chamber returned to its gentle wall glow. A hush fell over the corridor as everyone waited. Then slowly, the dome window slid open with a soft hiss. Karux stepped out, his crest ridges folded in serene arcs. His skin had returned to its normal golden shade, but a faint shimmer still danced along his shoulders. He bowed his head, deeply to Lana, then turned to the crowd. Outside the dome, the audience broke into applause. Quiet at first, then stronger as tears glistened in some eyes. Commander Reyes stepped forward, eyes bright behind her visor. "In all my years," she said into the chamber speakers, "I have never witnessed such a display of life's beauty. Thanks to Engineer Chen and Karux, we have shown that understanding and cooperation can achieve wonders." She paused, letting her words settle. This ceremony marks a new chapter for the Eos colony. Lana felt her cheeks warm. Karux glanced at her and offered a gentle hum of gratitude. She drifted beside him and placed a hand over her heart. Together, they listened as the crowd's applause echoed through the corridor. After the ceremony, the engineers converged on the chamber to record data. They downloaded the array's logs, measured every pixel of reflected light, and mapped the cooling performance. Lana answered questions about her design, her voice steady and confident. Station scientists marveled at the efficiency of the cooling crystals and the redundant fuse system. They spoke of publishing a joint paper on hybrid ritual chambers for interspecies ceremony. Later, back in her quarters, Lana and Karux unpacked the remaining crystal panels. He placed a small crystal shard in her palm, a token of his culture's highest respect. She traced the shard's facets and felt warmth spread through her. Karux hummed a soft melody, and Lana played earth string music on her holoprojector. Their two worlds mingled in light and sound. Lying on her bunk, Lana watched the crystal shard glow softly in the dim light. She thought of the display they had shared, a perfect union of alien ritual and human engineering. She realized that by embracing difference and working together, they had created something neither could do alone. Outside, the Eos colony continued its silent orbit, carrying two friends who had faced the peak of an alien mating season, and turned it into a triumph of trust, creativity, and unity. As she drifted to sleep, Lana knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would meet them side by side. Early light filtered through the viewport as Lana Chen awoke to a quiet station. The ritual chamber had been dismantled and Krux's mirror array lay neatly packed in storage. For the first time in days, the corridors of Eos Colony hummed with normal activity. Engineers fixed minor power flickers, botanists tended plants in the hydroponics bays, and children laughed in their classrooms. Lana stretched and rose from her bunk, feeling both relief and a curious anticipation about what the day might bring. When she entered the common area, Krux waited beside a low table. In his slender fingers, he held a small, luminescent seed, no bigger than a pebble. Its surface glowed with soft green light and tiny veins of gold ran in spiral patterns across it. Lana's heart lifted. She recognized it from the Velmorian logs, a seed grown only during a completed mating season, meant to begin a new cycle of life. Krux offered the seed with a gentle nod. A hollow caption translated his words. "This gift carries my culture's future. It must grow under shared sky." Lana accepted the seed reverently and tucked it into a padded case. She motioned for Krux to join her, and together they floated toward the colony's terraforming gardens. The gardens were a patchwork of green domes, each tuned for different planetary climates. Inside the nearest dome, artificial sunlight warmed rows of budding saplings. Lana found a clear patch of rich soil warmed by gentle heat lamps. Kneeling, she cleared small stones and placed the seed in the earth. Krux hovered beside her, touching the soil with quiet respect. Lana sprinkled water from a fine mist dispenser. The seed glowed brighter for a moment, then settled into the dark ground. Over the next hours, they returned to check on the seed's progress. By midday, a tiny green sprout had pierced the soil. Its leaves were slender and translucent, and faint light pulsed at its core. Colony gardeners gathered to watch, whispering in wonder. Someone pointed out how the light matched Krux's bioluminescent patch. A botanist smiled and took notes, considering how to adapt the sprout for other domes. As the plant grew, word spread through the colony. Messages reached the command deck, where Commander Reyes read them with a proud smile. Scientists and cultural liaison planned a dedication ceremony for the young plant to celebrate human-alien friendship. News feeds across the station broadcast images of the glowing sprout, inspiring hope in every module. That evening, the colony gathered in the garden dome under a canopy of stars painted on the ceiling. Lana and Krux stood beside the sprout. Commander Reyes spoke. "This living gift reminds us that by working together, we can bring life to new worlds and new friendships." Applause echoed softly. Lana looked at Krux, whose crest ridges shone gently in the dome's light. He hummed a quiet melody of gratitude. After the ceremony, Lana and Krux walked back through the garden paths. He paused by a bed of earth roses and plucked a single white bloom. He offered it to Lana, who accepted with a smile. A hollow caption appeared. "May our bond grow like this seed." Lana tucked the rose behind her ear, feeling a warmth that went beyond friendship. Back in her quarters, Lana placed the glowing sprout's care schedule on her datapad. She adjusted the station's environmental controls so the plant would thrive. Then she added a new entry to the colony archives. Chapter BO 1 Earth Engineer and Velmorian's Shared Garden. She paused, thinking of all that had happened, from the first dinner feast to the peak of the ritual and now to a living reminder of their unity. Lana lay on her bunk, watching the small hollow display of the sprout's growth data. Outside, Eos. Colony drifted in silent orbit. Inside, two roommates, one human, one alien, had turned a season of biology into a season of friendship. As she drifted to sleep, Lana knew that the little seed's light would guide them forward, lighting the way for many more stories among the stars.